but C-15, the drug bill as well. And so I had a very good conversation with both the Attorney General and the Public Safety Minister for British Columbia, and I explained to them the contents of the two bills that we have before Parliament, and I'm confident that I will have their support, and I'll have the support of Attorneys General right across this country. Now, I have indicated to them, and I'll indicate to you, as I have to Parliament, that we are taking these bills one step at a time. You will remember in the last Parliament when we introduced 5 bills in the first session of the last Parliament, and you will remember as well that when we adjourned in the summer of 2007, not one of those bills was actually passed into law. And if I sound a bit frustrated thinking about that, I was very frustrated to have to deal with that. I think it's best to introduce these bills one step at a time. I'm trying to garner public opinion on those. As you can tell from those of you, people like yourself and others who have followed this government's fighting crime agenda, we're moving ahead, and we'll continue to move ahead, but I'm taking them one step at a time.
I don't want to be partisan, but we've actually offered to expedite these 2 bills rather quickly. You could actually introduce the measures sought by British Columbia very soon. We would expedite those as well. They aren't very complicated. They can be done very quickly.
I'm glad to hear you say that. That's a beautiful thought, Mr. Dosanjh. I hope you've spoken with your other colleagues here in the bloc and the NDP, because nothing would make me happier than to get these things through. You know very well the frustration and the difficulties that I and my colleagues had getting anything passed. Even the bill to protect 14 and 15-year-olds from adult sexual predators took much longer than I would have liked to have seen, but I'm happy that you are prepared to push these things, because I've got news for you, Mr. Dosanjh. We have other pieces of legislation that we'll be bringing forward, and I hope this enthusiasm keeps up, because this is exactly what Canadians need.
It seems to me you're more interested in politicking than giving me the answer, but let me move on to the next question, and that is with respect to the drug courts. Your C-15, the bill C-15 dealing with drug offenses and sentences therein,
yes,
indicates that there would be more expansive use of the drug courts. The drug courts funding continues for a year from today.
Yes.
The decision to renew that funding isn't going to be made within this month. It takes 1 year for any addict to go through a program in a drug court. Why are we jeopardizing treatment of those people who are attending drug courts by not making a decision more quickly, particularly if C-15 anticipates that these courts are there to stay?
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Dosanjh, that the drug courts that you're referring to got started a number of years ago. They were done on a pilot project basis. That being said, we have ensured that that funding is in place, and that will continue for the next year. And you're quite correct that we make references to that in the C-15 bill that we have before Parliament. And I can tell you this as well, that very soon after becoming Minister of Justice in January of 2007, this was one of the areas that I was particularly interested in terms of what we are doing to help that individual who is neither violent but has found themselves addicted or caught up in the court system. And I think up to this point they have worked quite well. The funding is in place for the next year, and I thank you for any representations you'd like to make for the future of that program.
Well, I would just ask you to actually expedite the funding approval for future years more quickly, but let me...
On people who get involved with serious drug crimes in this country. Again, we want to help the addict, the poor individual who finds him or herself addicted. We want to help that individual, but we're very clear to the people who are in the business of destroying people's lives, the people who like to sell these things to children and around schools, who think that the grow-op business is a great career opportunity, people who think a smart business move is to start importing drugs into this country. We send out a very clear message to them. You're going to jail if you get caught and convicted under these new laws, and I think that's exactly what Canadians have been wanting and have been waiting to hear from their government in Ottawa, and I'm pleased that we're delivering on that. In addition, I'm told, for instance, from law enforcement agencies, border services, and others, that people bringing drugs into this country is a major problem. And we have to be very clear who we're talking about. The people who bring drugs into this country, this is not just somebody who's experimenting with drugs on a one-off on a Saturday night, or some individual, poor individual, who's become addicted. These are the people who are involved with organized crimes. These are the gangs. They're the ones bringing drugs into this country or shipping drugs out as currency for drugs coming into this country. We know who they are. We know what they're all about. And this is why I'm very pleased that the bill that we have before Parliament, Bill C-15 on drugs, makes it a mandatory jail time for somebody who wants to bring drugs into this country, because that's who we're targeting: gangs, organized crime. And if you want to break up gangs and organized crime, you've got to get these people off the street. And so we send out a very clear message on that. And I have to tell you, it's not just a reaction to all the unfortunate publicity that has been received in the last few weeks. This has been ongoing, and you will, when this committee or Parliament has a close look, as I hope they're having a close look at that drug bill, I hope they will note that it is virtually identical to the one that we had in the previous Parliament that we wanted to get passed. And so these things send out the right message, and this is exactly what victims and law-abiding Canadians want us to do. So yes, we are moving forward on these. We've had input from a wide range of people, and in my opinion, Canadians are demanding action on these issues, and I'm pleased to tell them that we are prepared to deliver.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
At least $8 billion a year. And the marijuana is distributed by organized crime, and they trade it for heroin and illegal handguns south of the border. And the money laundering is also very much involved. Yet in BC, and get this, the statistics show that for every 100 grow-ops, only 3 or 4 of those grow-ops that encounter our justice system result in any kind of punishment like jail time. That means 96 out of the 100 get away scot-free. Is this a good message to send to organized crime? Let me explain to you just how we have found out the justice system falls on its own sword. If you start with those 100 grow-ops, 35% of the time our police treat them as non-cases. They seize the plants, they seize the equipment, they tell them they've been naughty boys and girls. So 35% of our tax dollars going to policing a controlled substance, the police are shooting blanks. Out of that 100, that leaves 65 grow-ops. Of those remaining 65, 42% of the time our federal prosecutors stay the drug charges. 42%. So what are we paying for? That leaves 37 grow-ops that make it to our courts in BC. So what happens there? Historic figures show that only 9% of the total number of grow-ops and the charges having gone through the courts in BC actually result in a sentence that includes jail time. And the average length of that jail sentence, only 3 months. And they only get fined on average $1,200. And this is after they've stole hydro to run the grow-up at around $1,800. Do we have any doubt why we have an organized crime and street gang problem in BC?